We are back for a all-new episode of SJHL Weekly. Thank you so much for joining us across the SJHL social media platforms. We have a jam-packed episode for you on today's show. Of course, we're going to take a look at this past week in the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League, but we'll also be joined by head coach and general manager of the Nipawin Hawks, Tad Kozun, and SJHL leading scorer Maguire Ratzloff, also of the Nipawin Hawks. But before we get to my co-hosts, of course, we have to thank all of our great sponsors with the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League and SJHL Weekly for helping us put on our great shows each Monday and Thursday. Chevrolet, Capital Auto Mall, Great Western, Cantera Seeds, RBC, SaskTel, SGEU, Direct West, Saskatchewan Construction Safety Association, Tourism Saskatchewan, and Young's Equipment. Thank you so much for your support and making these shows possible each and every week as we bring in our great co-hosts, Rory Mcgouran, Jamie Neugebauer. Boys, how was your weekend?
Yeah, it was great. It's an odd one throughout the SJHL season for a broadcaster of a team as well with the league where you don't have any hockey on Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. So I think it's the lone one off until the end of the season, minusing the Christmas break. But I'm happy to report that there's no new segment of What's Wrong with the Acura.
Which is
we're here and we made it on very nice roads.
Yeah, which is a shame because we had a graphic ready, but we'll save that for next time. Newsy, how was your weekend?
Yeah, it was good. I called a lot of hockey games. I called the Friday night, obviously, in Melville, a pretty solid win for the Hounds, and then 2 games at Notre Dame on Saturday, all with a bit of a cold. So, yeah, it was a pretty busy weekend, but my Vikings...
Jeez, that was a...
big win over the Buffalo Bills, and you're welcome, Saskatchewan.
I'm just
and the people in Flin Flon.
I got a little worried there when you started to lift up your shirt. I didn't realize there was going to be a shirt underneath, so I was...
There aren't too many seasons where Nugsy can proudly support the Vikings jersey, so we'll let him have this one.
I'm perfectly fine with it. Support your teams.
Yeah.
I'm glad. All right, well, let's get into the last couple of days in the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League when it comes to the scoreboards. Let's go to Thursday, and of course, all of our recaps are presented by Sask Lotteries. The Flin Flon Bombers earned an 8-3 win over the Yorkton Terriers on Thursday to kick off it was a busy week for the Yorkton Terriers, and these two teams met again on Friday, but it was the Yorkton Terriers bouncing back and earning a 3-1 win over the Bombers. Melfort 6-2 victors over the Estevan Bruins. Notre Dame with a 4-3 win over Melville. A shootout win for Nipawin over Kindersley, 5-4, and the Larange Ice Wolves winning 2-1 in overtime over the Battleford's North Stars. Then on Saturday, just 3 games on the schedule. Larange with the big 6-1 win over Yorkton. Melfort beat Estevan by the same score, 6-1, and Battleford's getting back in the win column with a 7-3 win over the Nipawin Hawks. Guys, I want to start with Larange because last week's episode we kind of focused on the Ice Wolves because we had Kevin Kaminsky on the show and Walker Jerome, and we talked about how important this week was going to be for them. 4 games this week, and they passed it with flying covers. They swept the week, 4 big wins. And what does that mean for the Ice Wolves?
There's something special about Parents Weekend and Family Weekend.
Really is, yeah.
When everyone gets to come out. Of course, for a lot of these players, it's the first extended amount of time away from their family. But when you can add to it a 4-game winning streak at home in front of the family, I think that just adds so much more oomph to what the Larange Ice Wolves are going to bring down the table. I can't wait to see our power rankings coming up because have to think they're going to jump up a few spots.
Yep.
But it wasn't easy customers coming into the Mel Hagland Arena, and they passed it with flying colors. They outscored their opponents 19-6 over the 4-game winning streak, and they had both goaltenders, Dawson Smith and Topher Churiko, who look like now, are they the best 1-2 punch in the SJHL? Very possible. But we talked to Kevin Kaminsky. How imperative is this homestand going to be? You got 6 straight games at home, and they're in fast order. They are not spread out at all. And he said, I think this could really determine whether are we ready to make that next step from a team that in the last couple of years, people have, they've been in the playoffs, they've been a really hard out, but 100%. They want home ice advantage now.
Big time.
And I think this home ice advantage throughout Parents Weekend really propelled them to being one of the top 4 teams in the league. And we'll see what they can do. They got 2 more coming up against Weyburn throughout the week. So if they can go 6 for 6 on this homestand, yeah, that's huge for the Wolves.
Jamie?
Well, they're already in second now in the league right now. Like, they're no joke, folks.
No.
And one of the things that I love, and I don't know if everybody loves this, but I love a goalie duel. And we saw, a rare Battleford's North Stars loss over this stretch, right? On November the 11th, I believe it was, when Battlefords was in Larange, and Josh Cote, Dawson Smith, head-to-head, tete-a-tete, going at it, and a 2-1 win. Riley Morgan, another big goal for Larange, not a big surprise there. But you know what? They're making a lot of good moves, and the thing that I love about this little stretch for Larange, I love the way that they play. I know you do too, Rory. They're fun. They play hard. We heard Kevin Kaminski talk about the offensive zone being the fun zone for Larange. They play, a pretty offensive style. But the last number of games in a row, they've only given up one in each of the last 3 games. And obviously that's a great recipe for success. Obviously, Chirico and Smith have a big part to do with that. But as a team, they've bought into what Kevin Kaminski is preaching. They responded to that effort in Nipawin that Kevin Kaminski was unhappy with. And, again, what Rory was saying, full marks for taking advantage of Parents' Weekend and time at home.
I think in that building, too, though, it's even harder to hold teams to just one goal. The shot totals are usually raised a lot more than, you may see in Notre Dame or you may see in Yorkton, right? It's difficult, but also on the flip side of that, it also is able to add the constant pressure that the players can have against you. So we've talked about that hand over, show over show about that's how Larange needs to play. They did it this weekend, and they're going to be a force to be reckoned with. Also, we often talk about a player that comes into the league and maybe needs a little bit of time to acclimate. I can't wait to see Dallin Pikachu go off because he's going to be a force. He's got 3 points in 5 games, but wait till he gets his footing under that system. He's going to be a handful, man.
He's a perfect Larange player, right? Like, he was a fan favorite in Prince Albert in the dub, and plays high octane. He's physical, he's tough, he's mean, and he could score. Like, he's going to be great for Larange.
And just think about kind of what Coach Kaminski said last week, the benefits of having 2 good goalies like they do in Larange. You play 4 games in essentially 4.5 days because it was an afternoon game on Saturday. I mean, it really doesn't seem like it doesn't make a difference who's in net for them because both goaltenders have been very good this year.
Yeah, at first we weren't sure what they were going to bring to the table. Dawson Smith was the returning goaltender. His numbers weren't amazing last year. He proved right out of the gate, like, okay, what did this guy do in the offseason, right? It deserves to be recognized as one of the top. On the other side, Topher Chirico kind of struggled when he first came out, right? And now he's proving that, this is no longer a A and B. It's a 1A and 1B. And for any coach to have that is a really big plus, especially when you can throw either of them in the lineup and they hold teams to 1 goal.
Now let's move on to Melfort was down in Estevan for 2 games without Joel Favreau in between the pipes, but they go down into Estevan and get 2 big wins over the Bruins. It seems like the Mustangs just have the Bruins number to start this season. 4 big wins, and their offense came out in droves for the Mustangs over the weekend.
Yeah, they scored Estevan 12-3 over the weekend.
Crazy.
In Affinity Place. And we were talking about Estevan being as hot as anybody in the league not too long ago, but I guess Melfort is just has something on Estevan. They've played 4 games against each other in the last couple of weeks, October 21st, 22nd, something like that, when Melfort hosted Estevan and won both those games too. And Zach Summers, an 04 birth year, he just loves playing against Estevan too, I guess. 10 of his last 10 points have all been against the Estevan Bruins. 4 of them goals. He was pointless in between those 2 series for a young 04 Summers, who, by the way, Trevor Blevins is super high on, and for great reason. And I do have to mention, too, really, really hope for a speedy recovery for Cody Davis, who went down in a big-time heap, I believe, in the second game of the series. Hope for a quick recovery because he's been such a fixture in this league for such a long time, and that injury looked pretty bad.
For me, can they maintain the scoring momentum? We know Melfort.
Yes.
I think the reason why they're so good against the Estevan Bruins is the coaching matchup and kind of the system that Trevor Blevins brings into both arenas. And it's very hard to break through, let alone get scoring opportunities, just get shots on net, right? So when you have Favreau or James Venn, both really good goaltenders, it's going to be tough to score against Melfort. But they don't have a single point per game player minus Duguay, who's only played 9 games, or 7 games it might be, right? 9 points in 7 games. It's their only point per game player. We know they generate a lot of offense from their back end. So if they can find a nice balance, we're not getting away from Trevor Blevins' system, but get a little bit more of that secondary scoring, some Zach Summers, right? Some more Riley Ash involved. Then they're going to be the Melfort Mustangs team that we expected them to be at the start of this year, maybe a little bit of a slower start, but they're going to need to continue getting secondary scoring 100%. Or else they may go back up into a rut where they just can't find the back of the net.
Yeah, they've been inconsistent to start the SJHL season, and one of the big things, like you mentioned, was the offense. So if they can maintain this and get quality scoring from up and down their lineup, they might be the Melfort Mustangs we kind of all expected them to be. Moving on, let's talk a little bit about Flin Flon and Yorkton. They played 2 games up at the Whitney Forum. Of course, Yorkton was playing 3-3, a very tough 3-3 to play 2 games in Flin Flon then against Larange. But what did you guys make, I guess, of those 2 games up in Flin Flon? And I guess to follow that up, the 3 games for Yorkton.
Well, first of all, I mean, Caleb Allen.
It's his show, yeah.
Are you kidding me? 49 of 50
on Friday
in a 3-1 win in the Whitney Forum. Are you kidding me? I talked to Matt Hare about Caleb Allen before the game between Yorkton and Notre Dame and Wilcox, and he said, you know what, we kind of had a hint that he was pretty good because he was one of the top U18 goalies in Colorado last year. And, you know, this Yorkton team, you know what, they brought in Connor Selesky to find some secondary scoring. But when you have a team that's struggling a little bit to find the back of the net, that really makes everybody a little bit nervous because you feel like a mistake gets bigger and bigger and bigger when you have a hard time putting the puck in the back of the net. So I like Connor Selesky so far as an addition. You know, they came up with that win on the Friday night. The next day, they had to travel to Larange from Flin Flon, play a 2:30 game. After a night game in Flin Flon, that is really tough, and they did really well. Actually, they put a lot of shots on Larange, and just a better performance, I believe it was by Topher Chirico. But it was a tough trip, and to get a win from Yorkton, I think Rory, who's struggling a little bit right now, at least 1 from 3 in that little trip. I guess Matt Hare will take it at this point.
I think the win, it does more for the Yorkton Terriers than maybe looking at the losses, right? You said how hard it was, and you basically said everything I was going to cover. Caleb Allen needed to steal a win. If your goaltender is not good in the Whitney Forum, if he's on an off day, kiss 2 points goodbye. You're not winning the game.
It's tough.
They're getting 40-plus shots on net. They're going to be up 10 A-plus scoring chances. Their defense jump up in the rush. If your goaltender's not on his A game, you're done. You're not winning in the Whitney Forum. And Caleb Allen picked up that win, which I think for Yorkton Terriers team, who you mentioned, maybe a little bit of struggles as of late. If they go up north and lose all of them, it's just a huge blow, right?
100%.
It's a trip that a lot of team uses to kind of build some team bonding, right? And just losses hamper that. They're not easy to kind of overcome. The meals are quieter. The bus rides are, a little more seldom. So I think the win mattered immensely more than looking at a 6-1 loss to Larange when you're playing in less than a 14-hour turnaround, right? And I think that one you could throw out and look what you did in the win. But Caleb Allen had to pull that out because if you go up and lose all 3, it hurts. Yeah.
Yeah, I have to say though, we understand the logistics of going from the north to Yorkton. That's tricky. We get it. Having to play a game and then get home that night. That's tough. We understand the organizational element of it. But as you were saying, Rory, that is a brutal turnaround, and especially a Larange team, as we were just talking about, is just flying right now.
And another team that was on a northern swing was the Kindersley Clippers, who returned to action after 13 days off. They played 3 games in 4 nights, and their finale against the Nipawin Hawks is where we find our Tourism Saskatchewan Play of the Week.
Ochitwood just moves in slowly and dances across the blue line in on Logan Falk. Oh my God, what a save by Logan Falk. That was unbelievable as he threw up his right toe and kept it out.
Shame, because that was one of the best saves I've seen all season for sure. But obviously Kindersley falling 5-4 in a shootout to the Nipawin Hawks. They get 1 out of a possible 6 points. Maybe let's just talk a little bit about their stretch because, you had 13 days off. Then you have to go play 3 of 4 on the road in 2 very difficult rinks. I mean, the fact that they got a point... Is that a positive compared to, if they had lost all 3?
Yeah, I mean, I think Ken Palaquin's going to be looking more at details than maybe even a result at this point. And I think, you can't give up 4 power play goals on 7 opportunities and win in a game, especially on the road, right? That's tough. Nipawin 4 for 7 on the power play there Friday, and they got the long time off, and the pace of the game, the details can kind of get rusty if you don't play for that period of time. But I mean, obviously, again, what Rory was saying about Yorkton going up, if you don't get anything from a little stretch like that, then that is a real dagger. But again, Kindersley's getting time to get healthy, lots of team bonding and trying to figure things out. So again, I think as they get into more games, we'll see a better version. And hey, they got a point as you were saying. They're in a tough barn and a Nipawin team that is really starting to figure it out right now.
Yeah, and for the Kindersley Clippers, you're going to get a big chance of revenge coming up this week, right?
Big time.
They didn't play for 13 games, and players don't like that.
No,
right?
not at all.
They don't want 9 straight days of practices with a couple days off. Like, you need to get in-game action.
Time.
The Kindersley Clippers have played 17 games this year. They haven't played a lot. Estevan's played 26. 9 games difference. And we're, November 14th? Like, the fact that there's that discrepancy is insane, I think.
It really is.
Take advantage of it.
Exactly.
Kindersley plays Nipawin coming up twice this week.
At home.
And they're only 6 points out of 8th spot. And how many games less have they played than Weyburn and Notre Dame? Well, 3. They win all 3. They're now tied for that 8th spot, right? If it swings that way.
Yep.
So you got chance of revenge. You know you're there in that Nipawin game. And I think, as Neugsy put, no one likes to just sit around and practice. You got to have games in. So let's see them get back into game action and see if they can, climb way back up with the games in hand that they need to use. They need to use.
Yeah, and returning home will help them for sure, playing at the West Central Event Center. Because we have such a jam-packed show today, we are going to now announce the players of the week for this week prior to our guests joining us. So we will start with the SGU MVP of the week, and it coming from the Larange Ice Wolves, who won all 4 of their games, led by 20-year-old Trenton Curtis. 4 goals, 3 assists. I mean, Rory, maybe just speak to his performance this week. And obviously, he's been a great addition for the Larange Ice Wolves when they acquired him at the end of September.
Well, I do like how he won out of the week coming where we interviewed Kevin Kaminsky, because we talked like, well, do you think maybe Walker Jerome and Ethan Strick and Riley Morgan are maybe underrated up north, right? They're not getting the credit. First guy he says, well, you got to throw Trenton Curtis into the mix, right? So he picks up a hat trick in the first game, seals it up with another goal, as you mentioned, 4 goals. Was he maybe in a system that didn't showcase exactly how much offensive talent he had in Melfort? Maybe. Comes into Larange, a little more high octane, a little more in your face, right? And I think he's blossoming because of it. But he's just another piece down the middle. You see him on playing defensive zone draws too, offensive zone important times. Kaminsky throws him out there in those moments, and he's going to be a big piece, but a big family week for him.
10 goals, 10 assists in 17 games with the Larange Ice Wolves since joining him. He's been outstanding for them. Moving on, Jamie, to the SaskTel goalie of the week, sticking with the Larange Ice Wolves, Topher Chirico. 2 wins, the goals against average of 1, a .974 save percentage. You can't ask for much better goaltending than that. Yeah,
well, I mentioned it in our recap there, Jeremy. 2 goals against or less in 5 of his last 6 games. All the wins. So if you only give up 2 goals in a game as a goalie, you are really giving your team a chance to win. And the Ice Wolves are winning, right? He beat Kindersley and Larange. He does his job. He makes the save when you need him to. Just kind of the same as Dawson Smith. And, they're very, very happy. I asked Kyle Schneider, the assistant coach there for Larange, where they got him from. And he said, another one of Kevin Kaminsky's connections down in the States. They're everywhere. He's got eyes everywhere. And that's where Larange is getting their players from. And Topher's another one. Yep. And congratulations to Topher. Moving on to the Direct West Rookie of the Week. This one coming from the Flin Flon Bombers, Liam Bridger, who had a goal and 3 assists this past week. All of them coming, Rory, in a big win on Thursday, an 8-3 victory over the Yorkton Terriers.
It seems that the rookies in Flin Flon take a little bit of time to shine, right? Yep. We saw it with Jaden Mercier, right? Maybe just held under the radar when he's playing with teams like Donovan Houle-Villeneuve, right? And Alec Malo and Cole Refuse, and then really takes that jump. So Liam Bridger, right? Under the radar type of rookie who we haven't talked too much about because of the talent that Flin Flon has. Yep. Then he goes out and has a week like this, and now you're scouting the Flin Flon Bombers, and you're like, well, there's another piece we got to circle, right? Like, you can't let that line get unnoticed because then they're going to take advantage, and that's what they'll do to you. Like Mike Reagan, like Kevin Kaminsky always finds these players, right? From wherever. Their scouting staff scours the market. And I just think Bridger's another player that wasn't talked about enough because of the other players on Flin Flon. And now he's getting a little more ice time, a little more comfortability, and putting up the points in turn. And I love those Newfoundland kids. Like, they come in. Anytime they come in, they seem to be awesome kids too. And one thing I'll say about Liam Bridger, I know we're short on time, all of his goals really had come on the power play really before this one.
This one was a 5-on-5 one against Yorkton, so I'm sure Mike Reagan is happy to see him contribute a little bit more 5-on-5 as well, even though we know how insane that Flin Flon power play has been this year.
Yeah, 7 goals, 5 assists on the season. He is 7th in rookie scoring, and to add to that, we've seen so many great rookie performances this year as well. Finally, the defenseman of the week, we are going to go to the Nipawin Hawks. Nugsy and Xander Stewart, a goal and 2 assists in 2 games played. He's almost a point per game as a defenseman this year. Overall, great season so far for Xander.
Yeah, great opportunity in Tad Kozun's system to be offensive. He can jump in. He's a 6'3" guy. He's mobile in that little rink in Centennial Arena. Tad Kozun doesn't have any training wheels on him, so he can be part of the rush. And yeah, as I said, it's perfect for him. And another one of those kids from the Pursuit of Excellence program there in Kelowna in the SJHL. So many great players out of that system, and a lot of guys in the SJHL as well. And Xander's just another one. So kudos to him. I think he's been really, really consistent all year for Nipawin, and big time kudos to him.
Yeah, he had the opposite of the Cy Young stack going for quite some time.
Did.
Right? Throughout this year, I think he had 11 or 12 assists.
Yeah, he did.
A goal. He's picked up a couple goals now recently. 4-game point streak for Stewart. We know that Nipawin allows the most goals per game in the SJHL. So they've been having to outscore a little bit of their defensive issues to pick up points. If they can figure out a way to, minimize that by a half a goal a game, right? Which is a huge amount, right? Yep. Half a goal a game, they're gonna be a team to be reckoned with because they have no problem scoring, right?
Yeah.
It's just
well, they put up a big number on Larange.
Yeah.
Who puts up a big number on Larange?
Yeah, exactly.
Nobody. They put up one. So they got weapons.
And they're right in the mix for a playoff spot, to say the least. So in recap of the players of the week, SGU MVP of the week, Trenton Curtis of the Larange Ice Wolves. SaskTel goalie of the week, Topher Churiko of the Larange Ice Wolves as well. Direct West rookie of the week, Liam Bridger of the Flin Flon Bombers. And of course, defenseman of the week going to Xander Stewart of the Nipawin Hawks. After the break, we will be joined by the head coach and general manager of the Nipawin Hawks, Tad Kozun, get his thoughts on the weekend and their start to the season. This is SJHL Weekly across the SJHL social media platforms.
Capital Auto Mall is a proud partner of the SJHL, supporting the rich traditions and proud future of junior hockey in Saskatchewan. Capital Auto Mall, on the corner of Rochdale and Pasqua in Regina.
Saskatchewan, you know SaskTel, because we're everywhere. Because being everywhere keeps us connected to you. You are what matters most. With SaskTel sponsorships, we get to be a part of your community. From the dance competitions, to the rodeos, to helping discover and embrace technology across the province, we're here with you, and we're here for you. It's easy to get started. All you need to do is apply. Every year, SaskTel contributes nearly $3 million to approximately 1,000 nonprofits, charities, associations, and events in more than 200 communities across Saskatchewan. So keep dancing, keep laughing, keep discovering, and we'll be there to help, to lend a hand, and join in the fun. SaskTel cares. Always has, always will, because we are dedicated to our home. To apply for sponsorship, visit sastel.com/sponsorships.
When you buy a lottery ticket in Saskatchewan, your money really goes a long way. More than 12,000 sport, culture, and recreation groups receive funding from Sask Lotteries every year.
For victims of domestic abuse, fleeing may mean leaving everything behind. There is hope. SaskTel provides brand new cell phones so that starting over is possible. Learn more at sastel.com/fresh-start.
Boost your efficiency and your bottom line with Young's Equipment and Case IH tractors, including the cutting-edge Puma 150 CVX and the Maxim 145 with best-in-class efficiency. Check out the Case IH lineup today at Young's Equipment.
Welcome back to SJHL Weekly across the SJHL social media platforms. It's Rory Mcgouran, Jamie Neugebauer, Jeromy Corrigan. Thank you so much for joining us. And we're going to head to the video chat lines where we are now joined by the head coach and general manager of the Nipawin Hawks, Tad Kozun. And each coach's convo is presented by the Saskatchewan Construction Safety Association. Tad, thanks so much for joining us today. How's it going?
It's going good. Enjoying the nice crisp air, that's for sure.
Good to hear. All right. Well, first and foremost, I guess, how did you make of your teams? Obviously, you guys got the split this weekend, but what did you make of your team's play this weekend?
I thought it was good. I thought we had a really, up and down game kind of on Friday there. And then I thought Saturday, the first 20 minutes was probably some of the best hockey I've seen us play. And obviously going against a team that is at the top of the standings right now, I thought we played really, really well. And obviously, the score doesn't dictate of how that game kind of went. There's a few other factors that, it's just some of our breakdowns and that hurt us. But other than that, obviously, pretty happy with where we're at, obviously going into this week.
Yeah, for sure. Tad, I got to ask you, you and I talked obviously at the cage about this when the Hounds were up there not that long ago, but you guys move on from Bryden Kiesman. You bring in these two young guys, and some people might say, oh, there's Nipawin, they're reloading, they're done. But it's completely been the opposite. You guys seems like you've turned over a pretty new leaf since then. Just talk about, what's going on up there that has given you guys some of that extra juice, especially since that trade.
I think it's just everybody's just buying in and getting used to having everybody around. Obviously, we make a trade of that magnitude. It obviously sends shockwaves, not just through everything, but obviously through the locker room. And you have to get the new guys in to learn the systems and to learn how we do it in Nipawin. And I know every team's different and everybody has their own ways. And you can see that everybody's starting to gel together now, and we're starting to turn that new leaf and go. And with that trade, we got younger, and we're one of the youngest teams in the league right now, and we don't have many 20-year-olds either, but there's no excuses, and I think we're really starting to come on now and be able to play the way that I know we can.
Hey, Dad, of course, you took over for the Hawks halfway through a season, and now getting your first run, full season. You knew when you come in that you had to look at a rebuild for the Nipawin Hawks. Just from your start to where you are now, where would you kind of process how that rebuild has gone and your expectations and timing towards it?
I think we've made really good strides with it. I hate saying it's kind of a rebuild. I think in junior hockey when you only get 3 years, I think it's more of a retool because you're able to go out and recruit and bring guys in and bring some older guys in with experience, obviously with 20-year-old limits and guys coming down from the WHL and that. But I really like the progress we make. And we look at our roster right now and we lose 5 guys off our roster next year right now. That's obviously a very, very low number in junior hockey, and having that many guys, eligible to return will definitely serve us well in the future. And just the way we do things here of being able to have a lot of guys come in and show how we do it here. But been really happy with kind of I think we could have a better record than what we have. But from watching our last few games, it's been a long time since we've had that's the first time I've had a 3-game winning streak, being here and then obviously run into a battle for a team. But, we're looking forward to continue to move up those steps that we keep building here.
Tad, just to build off kind of what Rory's question was, this is your first full year as the head coach and GM of the Nipawin Hawks. What's been the biggest challenge for you adjusting from an assistant coach role to now being the head coach?
It's hard to say. Probably just the day in, day out of making sure you got to be prepared and you got to be ready. And these guys, you have to make sure you're ready to go for these guys every day. And instead of, I guess, looking after the little things, it's all the big things that you got to make sure you're taking care of and making sure you stick to your guns and the way you want things done and that's how things get done here. And if you get away from that, then obviously, bad things are going to happen, but just making sure that everything's in place and the way we want things done here, it's day in and day out, making sure everything's done right that way.
Hey, Tad, I love coming to Centennial Arena and seeing the fans and the community, that you guys have up there. And as a Nipawin guy yourself, it's got to mean, I don't want to put words in your mouth, it's got to mean so much to be the head coach and GM of this club. Just talk about that honor and also talk about the pressure of it is being in a small town that cares so deeply about this club.
Yeah, it's definitely going through it as a player as well. Growing up here and then being a player here and now coaching, it definitely hasn't changed in all the years that I've been here. It's truly an honor, and I'm so grateful for this opportunity because it's something you dream of. When I was younger and said I wanted to be a coach, to think that I was going to be in my hometown in Nipawin is definitely surreal. And you know how passionate this fan base is, and you go around town and everybody's always asking questions and wanting answers, but you got to keep some close to your chest. But it's one of those things where how passionate this place is, and just the honor of being able to do this in Nipawin again and wanting to bring your best. And it's pretty easy waking up in the morning knowing you get to come to the rink, and especially in your hometown, to be the head coach of a junior hockey team and want to do the best you can for the whole community.
Well, we're going to talk to him next, but I have to ask you about Maguire Ratzloff and sort of the revelation that he's been. He had 3 goals in 31 games in the SJHL prior to this season, comes in as a 19-year-old and has 16 goals in 20 games. Just what have you seen in his development curve to take this player that was maybe overlooked in Melville and turn him into the league's top goal scorer?
It's kudos to him of what he did over the summertime. You can tell when he came in this year. He earned the captaincy, and you don't see many 19-year-old captains around the league either. It's one of those things where he came in, he was ready to work. He took this team and then took the bull by the horns, and away he went. He's one of those guys that's in here all the time, learning, asking questions, wanting to learn how to score. He's just a sponge. When you tell him information, he's going to go out and do it. So it's kudos to him for how much he wants it and how much he works. And it's obviously awesome working with kids like that you can just tell they have that look in their eye that when they go on the ice, they're going to want to score a goal or just go out there and be the hardest working kid on the ice and make sure they lead by example.
Yeah, just last one from me, Tad. Really appreciate your time. Again, everybody knows that Doug Johnson's system before you was very defensive, and they were hard to score against. It was a rugged system. I don't need to tell you. Just talk about maybe how you've tried to put your own identity in terms of the way that the Hawks play, because I look at your roster. Rory talked about Ratzloff. You got Johnson, you got Dobson, you got Ochitwa, you got all these guys that have plenty of weapons. Buckberger, of course. The list goes on that can score goals. How have you tried to put a stamp of Tad Kozun on this team?
I think the big thing, and if you watch, everybody watches enough hockey nowadays where obviously everybody can skate more. There's more power skating, there's more skill stuff going on where everybody can make plays, and you don't just have to rely on forwards to be forwards and D-men to be D-men. You look like at a Cale Makar or something, or a Quinn Hughes. Their defensive game is good, but their offensive game is just elite, and that's what separates those guys from the rest of the pack. And it's one of those things where you've got to take advantage of what these kids do. You can't turn everybody into a defensive defenseman. You can't have everybody as an offensive defenseman, but you got to be able to run with your horses and give them that opportunity to create plays where, if you're just sitting there saying dump pucks, chip pucks, play that boring game, then how are we really trying to develop our players? Where if you give them some reins, obviously you have to minimize that at some point with different players. But if you're able to let them run with it, and maybe you learn something that you didn't know a defenseman could do, if you just take that away from them right away, you're never going to learn that. But it's all about developing these guys and making sure they're comfortable and letting them try different things, because if you're just going to play that boring style hockey game, then, obviously it gets kind of boring. But it's one of those things where I know you guys were talking about before, where we've given up a lot of goals, which, I'm obviously not happy about. We're scoring more than we scored last year, but it's one of those things too. We've got to shore up our defensive end if we want to be successful, because I still believe defense wins championships, but you got to play as a unit of 5 and do everything together.
Dad, you mentioned you're one of the youngest teams in the league. You find yourselves right now in the thick of what everyone knows is going to be a really intense playoff race. We know that the intensity of the SJHL kind of has 3 tiers: before Christmas, after Christmas, and then that playoff push. Where do you think your team is right now? How's the excitement with this young roster that's going to get to experience it? Because right now you're in 8th place in the SJHL.
Yeah, obviously we're excited about it. We're right in the thick of things. I'm a guy that actually doesn't really look at the standings. I don't really pay attention to that kind of stuff. I worry about what's in this locker room and what we can do day in and day out, and making sure we win hockey games and making sure we're prepared. It's one of those ones where we've got to keep working on our process and keep building and making sure we bring that work ethic every day. and then I know we're going to be successful. It doesn't matter where we are. Obviously, we got to get in the playoffs, but it's one of those things where I'm really happy with how we're going at, with a young team, and we're one of the young teams in the league, like you said, and I'm really happy with the progression that we keep making. And if we continue to make that progression, then I expect good things from this. I expect a lot from this group, and I'm hoping they expect a lot of themselves too, because I think we can really do something awesome here. And I'm looking forward to just continuing to take those steps and obviously get into these big games and, measure up against these top teams.
Mm-hmm. I guess finally, Tad, big game against Flin Flon tomorrow at the Cage. What do you expect from the Bombers tomorrow?
We haven't seen them obviously since the start of the year, and they've made a few trades, and obviously they've been a hot team lately. But just expecting the big bad Bruins to come into town, and it's always a good rivalry between us. Looking forward to the game and expecting a good war out there.
All right, Tad. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today. We really appreciate it, and best of luck the rest of the way.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me, guys.
That is the head coach and general manager of the Nipawin Hawks, Tad Kozun. And of course, each and every coach's conversation this season is presented by the Saskatchewan Construction Safety Association. After the break, we will stick with the Nipawin Hawks as we are going to be joined with SJHL leading goal scorer Maguire Ratzloff right after the break. This is SJHL Weekly across the SJHL social media platforms.
Get red and ready with Case IH and Young's equipment. From Case IH combines to MacDon headers, Young's carries all the best in new or pre-owned harvest equipment. With field-ready, industry-leading equipment and highly dedicated service staff, we're here when you need us most. Come experience our award-winning service for yourself and visit youngs.ca to find your nearest Young's equipment location.
You wouldn't take the ice without protective wear. So why would you take to the job site that way? The SCSA is proud to partner with the SJHL.
Make way for the first ever Chevrolet Silverado ZR2. With Multimatic shocks, rugged 33-inch tires, and front and rear electronic locking differentials.
Dude, this is awesome, but we should get back to work. This good? Perfect.
If you're gonna work remote, work remote. Find new workspaces. Find new roads. Chevrolet.
When you buy a lottery ticket in Saskatchewan, your money really goes a long way. More than 12,000 sport, culture, and recreation groups receive funding from Sask Lotteries every year.
Capital Auto Mall is a proud partner of the SJHL, supporting the rich traditions and proud future of junior hockey in Saskatchewan. Capital Auto Mall, on the corner of Rochdale and Pasqua in Regina.
Well, welcome back to SJHL Weekly across the SJHL social media platforms. Bless you, Jamie. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. It's Rory Mcgouran, Jamie Neugebauer, Jeromy Corrigan. We appreciate you tuning in today, and we are pleased to be joined now by leading goal scorer for the SJHL, Maguire Ratzloff. Maguire, how are we doing today?
Good. Yourself?
We're doing great. Talking hockey, staying warm. That's the name of the game here. Well,
yeah, what else could you want?
Exactly. I'll ask you the same question I asked Tad. You guys split your weekends, winning over the Kindersley Clippers, and then a tough loss to the Battleford North Stars. What did you think of your team's play over the weekend?
Yeah, I mean, finished up that Kindersley game win's a win, right? Obviously, would have liked to finish that off in regulation, but to keep that streak going for us was really important, and I think we've seen a lot of growth. And then obviously the Battleford game was a tough one. They're a great team, and I don't think the score honestly reflected our effort there. But again, definitely a learning experience for us, and it was a good sign. I would say the score didn't reflect our effort, but yeah, good for us to grow.
Yeah, for sure, Maguire. Really appreciate your time as always. I want to talk about your development just a little bit. I know you didn't play any games during that COVID shortened year, so that probably had something to do with it. But talk about what's different, in Nipawin and the success you've had there, maybe versus a bit of a tougher time in Melville last year.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I played on 4 different teams last year. It was a pretty tumultuous year for me and tough to get settled. But yeah, I think this year we have tons of potential. We're a younger group, and it's good to see that. Tad's obviously encouraging, experimenting, and you've probably seen a more offensive style game from us. So yeah, to be in an environment where kind of that attitude is fostered, and just super helpful to see Tad invest in us, and obviously working on our skill work, and I don't know, that's just been super good to see, and it encourages everyone, and I think we're sort of breaking through that plateau, and I think our group is a lot better than we've been, and we're starting to get there for sure.
And where has the explosion of goals come from for yourself, right? 16 goals in 20 games. I just took a look, and I guess Kean Bell just passed you the other day, but you were holding on to that leading score for a long time here, and you only had, 3 goals in 30 games prior. So what do you attest to your success in filling the back of the net like you have?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to think I've always had a pretty good shot, and I think my teammates have attested to that, but it was more so I wasn't getting myself in great positions. I kind of stopped my feet when I was moving into my shot, and this summer putting a lot of work with some great company and great talent, and some great goaltenders as well, and just being able to quickly shoot pucks and put myself in good positions around the ice. And obviously my teammates have been finding me, which has been awesome, and to have a little bit extra space out there on the power play has been, 8 of my goals have been power play goals, so it's helped a little bit, right? But no, obviously, teammates finding me. We got good goaltenders back here, so in practice it's super competitive, and yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I got to ask you too, you know better than me at this point, Maguire, how much that organization means to the Nipawin community. It's such a great fan base that's so passionate, with so many great teams, the banners, that you see in the rafters, every game you play at the cage. What does it mean to you to wear that C and the pressure and the honor that it is?
It's a great honor. I mean, when I first got traded here, I had some former Hawks that I had known reach out to me and just share what a cool opportunity it is to play here. So I was obviously very grateful for that. The community welcomed me with open arms. And yeah, being named the captain this year was just such a great honor. And I think, just a great community, great group of guys. And, we've been able to get back in the schools this year and really get our community service going again. So, it's great to be able to be a part of that. And we have a really, really great leadership group, learning from the 20-year-olds. And yeah, it's a great honor. And yeah, just super excited for the group of guys that we have, and just how we've been able to positively impact the community, and yeah, just such a special experience.
Was there any added weight that you felt after being named the captain? As a 19-year-old as well, with the Hawks team you knew was going to be younger. You've done an outstanding job with your leadership. The Hawks are right in the middle of the playoff race, but did you initially just feel a little bit of extra weight wearing that C on the jersey, or was it full embrace, full forward?
Yeah, obviously there comes a little bit of weight, but I remember actually calling my dad right away, and just hearing him on the phone. He's always been a great leader, someone I've looked up to, right? So obviously some very kind words from him, and I focus on leading by example. I think we have a really, really good group of guys, and just for there to be someone that they can look up to in a sense of this is what we got to do. And yeah, obviously a bit of weight, but the 20-year-olds have been awesome on our team, and I've only played probably 40 games now of junior hockey. So to be able to get some of the experience from the 20-year-olds and yeah, just to be able to find ways for the team to be able to work better, I think.
Maguire,
that's sort of been my
Sorry to interrupt. Maguire, we've talked about, you putting the puck in the back of the net 16 times already this season, but I guess my question for you is, going into this year, did you have any personal goals for yourself?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I feel like I always had a good shot. I feel like I had the ability to be an impact player. I've always prided myself in being a two-way forward. And yeah, to be honest, I just wanted to be a plus player this year. I think that was my main mark. Being responsible in the D zone, being able to kill penalties. And I always kind of accepted that the offense would come, focusing more on the process rather than the outcome. And that's something I've worked on with our sports psychologist here. So, yeah, I would just say, it was really just happened to be the goal of staying a plus hockey player. And, the goals came, which is something I'm not complaining about, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Last one from me. Again, really appreciate your time. I want you to do a little bit of work for me as a broadcaster, media guy in this league. Who are some of the younger guys on this team? Maybe a Finley Ratzloff local boy, grew up kind of cheering for the Hawks. Maybe it's Alejandro De Leon. Who are some of those younger guys that haven't broken out yet that we can expect later this year, even next year, to be the names that we're always talking about on the Nipawin Hawks? Give me one or two, though. Don't go through the whole team.
No, of course. No, honestly, I think those two guys that you mentioned are pretty dead on, right? De Leon's obviously a high-end talent, acquired him from Portage, and really great guy. Obviously, he had quite a bit of success in the Manitoba League, and he potted his first SJ goal on the weekend, and yeah, just super exciting to see. I think it's just it's a different style of play that he's adjusting to, right? We're both from BC, and so it's been good to kind of share thoughts on that. And I think, super high-end talent, lots of potential. And then, like you mentioned, Finley Ratzloff, great guy, works super hard every night. And I don't think he's been fully rewarded for that. But, yeah, just, again, always works his bag off in practice. And you can just expect that he's going to be 110% every night. So, and especially as an 05 when he's doing that, it's super exciting to, think about the future that he's going to have here.
Maguire, I want to thank you again for joining us and taking your time. It's an exciting time for the Nipawin Hawks right now, and I'm going to pass the same question to you as I did to your head coach, Tad Kozun. You're right in the middle of the thick of the playoff race. We know the parity in the league. We know how tight it's going to be, and even now in November, how important all 2 points are in every battle. How much are you guys embracing that as a team that was, maybe not cast aside, but not put among, the playoff teams. And now you guys are proving that, hey, we're going to be right there at the end of it. As the captain, how exciting is that for you?
Super exciting. And we continue to focus on the process. We have a saying that we've kind of came up with and tried to follow this year, and that's no matter who, no matter when. So we're focused on winning periods, and we win 3 periods, win a game, right? And no matter who, doesn't matter where you are slotted on the lineup, you're an impact to this team. And everything that you do matters, no matter when, no matter what time of day, no matter what day we're playing on. It's an important game. So, exciting to see what the year that we had last year, kind of the start that we've been having and where we're sitting. But again, we stick to the process. We focus on, no matter who, no matter when, we play Hawks hockey, right?
And I guess finally, Maguire, big game tomorrow against the Flin Flon Bombers at home at the Cage. What do you expect about that matchup for tomorrow?
Yeah, Flin Flon's always a good game, right? They're, an aggressive team, and you can kind of expect 4 lines coming at you hard for sure. But, I definitely expect a battle, and going against Harmon Laser team, that'll be a fun matchup. Mm-hmm. So, like I said, it's going to be a battle, and we haven't seen them since really the start of the season. So I think we've both changed, and it should be an exciting matchup.
Well, Maguire, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. We really appreciate it. Congratulations on the start to your season, and best of luck the rest of the way.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me on today.
That is Nipawin Hawks captain Maguire Ratzloff. We've talked about it. He's had an outstanding start to the season, and if the Nipawin Hawks make the playoffs, he's going to be a big reason why.
Yeah, and one of the things that I love about Maguire, and he mentioned it, he touched on it, he's a skilled guy. He can shoot the puck. He can finish. He's hard to play against. He's a defensive zone guy first, takes care of his own business. You look at his stats, all 16 goals, 6 assists. Is this guy Showtime about himself? You heard him right there pretty much put it he plays. Like, he puts his heart out there for the Nipawin Hawks. He blocks shots. He's hard to play. He's a hard-nosed kid, and it's exactly what Tad Kozun wants to build his team around.
Keep the mouth guard in, too. That's a nice set of pearly whites he's got there. I don't want to see those getting chipped
He might
out.
have the best
Keep the
set
mouth
of
guard
teeth.
in, man. Yeah.
I also got to mention, for those that aren't aware, maybe Harmon Laser-Hume was on the Nipawin Hawks last year, traded in the offseason to Flin Flon, and they're facing him tomorrow. So that's why he said he was excited to face Harmon Laser-Hume.
Yes, and we want to thank both Maguire and Tad for hopping on the show today. We always appreciate the players and coaches' time. But now we get to move on to one of our favorite segments, Buy It or Sell It. Back for the second time this year. We are going to pose a couple of questions, and the boys are going to decide whether they want to buy it or sell it. Boys, are we ready?
Yeah.
All right. First question. Do you think an SJHL defenseman will surpass 10 goals prior to Christmas? Rory?
Go ahead, Nugsy.
Oh, Nugsy?
Well, yeah, I'm going to buy it. I think Alex Blanchard has 8 already with 11 games left.
Did have a good weekend, yeah.
Mathematically speaking, I mean, Alex Blanchard could do it. Jared Sitch has 6. The Hounds have a bunch of games left. There's a mountain. Tynan Ewart keeps popping him in. Like, there's a mountain of good, offensive defensemen in this league. So I'm going to buy for sure.
I'm also going to buy it. I think you've mentioned all the points that really need to be with where the defensemen are and the style of the teams that they're on, allowing them to jump up in the rush. Alex Blanchard, Jared Sitch, and the minutes they all play, Tynan Ewart. I'd say yes, I'll buy it for 10. If it was 12, then I'd really think about it. But I think they'll be at about 10 or 11 by the Christmas break, yeah.
And I think I will agree with you guys. I will also buy that. I mean, we've talked about how many good defensemen there are in the SJHL, and I mean, you just proved it with Blanchard already having 8 goals. There's a very good chance, mathematically speaking, just with the math, that's probably going to happen. All right, question 2. The World Junior A Challenge is about a month away. The camp should be happening in the next few weeks, I would assume. When it comes to the camp, I'm going to set a number for how many SJHL players are going to be invited for the camp, and you guys are going to buy it or sell it. I'm going to set the number at 6. Do you buy it or do you sell it?
You're quite the odds maker, man. That's right on the number for me. I'm going to sell it. I think it's going to be right there. I think there's going to be 6 players. So is that a buy or sell? I think that's a push.
That's a push.
Yeah.
No, he said 6. You're buying 6.
Okay, then I'll buy.
I can set it at 6.5.
Well, then
but
I'm
I don't
sell.
think that makes a difference.
Well, then I'm going to sell. It actually does. If it's, I think it's going to be 5 or 6, right on that number. Of course, just for a little reference, you can't have 20-year-olds, right?
Yep.
You're only allowed to invite 5 2003 born players to the camp, and it's between the AJHL, SJHL, and MJHL that get invited to the selection camp of 30 players. 6, I think, is a reasonable number to guess. So if you're number 6, I'll buy it. If it's 6.5, I'll sell it. Yeah.
There you go.
It's quite the odds. You're Vegas. You're Vegas right now, yeah.
You know what? And it hurts my heart. It hurts my heart. But there are so many good players in the AJ, and I think NHL scouts have such an input.
Sure.
I'm gonna sell. I think it's not far from 6. I think it's 4 or 5 probably. Like we're right there. Like you're not wrong. But like I think probably like 4, if we're gonna say. And if I'm gonna pick throw some guys. I think
you're going a step further.
Holden Dole is having a remarkable year. Jared Sitch, he can really play a role in any junior A team, I think. Zach Summers is getting hot for Melford. He's in 04. Jeremy Tremblay up in Flin Flon is a commit, D1 commit. Ethan Zilke can kill a penalty at any level of junior A hockey. And, maybe even like a Karsten Cater if they're looking for a young power play quarterback or a Vinny Palmerine to play with a Jared Sitch. Who knows? But so there's like, I think I named 6 there.
6,
so, but I think they're not going to take 6 of those guys. So gotcha. I'm gonna say if I had to pick an exact number, I'm gonna say 4, but you're not far off.
Yeah, it's in that ballpark no matter what, whether you buy it or you sell it. I'll push. I'll leave it at the push at 6.
It is the first time since 2019 that this tournament is coming back, and I will say if it is 4 or if it is 5. I will buy it that next year, with the direction the SJHL is going and the influx of talent we're seeing, it'll be higher. So I'll also buy that.
That's a futures bet?
Should
I write that down?
It's a futures bet.
Futures bet. Yeah. Okay, so we'll save that tape and we'll rewind it next year when we talk about it on the show. Okay, finally, here's a fun one. Obviously, through 21 games, the Battleford North Stars are 18-0-2-1. No regulation losses through 21 games. It's incredible. They're the top-ranked team based off the SJHL top 20 rankings. My question to you guys is, do the Battleford North Stars lose in regulation for the first time before Christmas? Who wants to take that first?
I'll take it.
Sure.
If they don't, I mean, this is as an incredible run
it's
as
already
you've seen in junior hockey, right? And it's crazy what they're doing. I'm going to wait. What was your question? Do they lose? Or
do they lose in regulation?
So if I'm buying it, I'm saying they're going to lose before Christmas, then I'll buy it because the next 4 games is Flin Flon, Larange.
At home.
They have Notre Dame and then Larange again. If they get through that, then I think they're going to be okay. But somewhere in there, that's a tough stretch. I know four out of those 6 games are at home, but we've seen Flin Flon, what they're able to do. Larange just beat them up in the Mel. That one, they were leading going into the third period, 1-0 as well.
Yep.
It's going to happen in the next 4 games, is what I'm going to say. Either Flin Flon or Larange is going to get the job done.
All right.
Spicy.
I'll write that down too.
Spicy. There you go. Send your angry letters.
Well, don't be angry at me. It's just a guess.
I'm kidding.
It's just,
hey,
we're guessing.
Braden Klomosko has been saying that the Battleford Northers have not been playing perfect hockey. They've been finding ways to win. And Josh Cote and also Merrick, the other goalie, has been excellent too. So it's not like there's any weak spots. But I mean, the law of averages say, again, I'm going to buy it. They have 12 games left. That's a lot of games to win in regulation. So again, it could be this week, right? Coming up with Flin Flon. Beating Flin Flon twice in a row for anybody is going to be tough, even in overtime. So I'm going to buy it. I don't know when. It could be like in Melfort too. Melfort's figuring it out too. Yep. They have to go, like Battleford has to go to Melfort, and that's never easy. But I'm going to buy it.
Well, and Battleford was in Melfort earlier this year, and they squeaked out a 5-4 overtime win. So
Melfort did.
Yeah, Battleford's beat Melfort 5-4 in overtime. Only 3 blemishes on the record this year for the Battleford North Stars. I'll sell it. I'll just
you think 12 games.
You know what? Why not? I'll sell it. I'll be different. You know what? I have faith in them. But just to be different, for the sake of being different.
I respect that.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Before we wrap up today's show, the week in the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League will begin tomorrow night. We kind of already teased it a little bit with the schedule for this week with our guests, but tomorrow night, the Nipawin Hawks will play host to the Flin Flon Bombers, as Nipawin will look to try and get back in the win column. Actually, both these teams will look to get back in the win column. Both teams coming off a loss and trying to get a big 2 points. Then on Wednesday, a pair of games on the schedule. The Weyburn Red Wings will be back in action. They just had a week off, and they'll be in Melfort to take on the Mustangs. And then you guys get to call a game at the Duncan McNeil Arena as the Humboldt Broncos beat the Notre Dame Hounds. So that's the action for the next 2 days in the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League. But I guess when you guys look at the week as a whole coming up, what kind of stands out and what are you looking for?
Well, I just want to mention Rory you made a really great statement last week about Tanner Van de Sype and what the Humboldt Broncos did last Wednesday when the Hounds were in Humboldt in a memorial game, and the 50-50 big amount of money, I think, going to the Van de Sype family, which is fantastic. In Wilcox on Wednesday night, we're doing a similar sort of thing. All the gate proceeds are going to the Van de Sype family in Wilcox, and a little bit cheaper price for tickets. So come on out to Wilcox if you're in the Regina area or whatever. Come for some great hockey. And the Broncos, as usual, did it up great. Very moving tribute and everything. So, we got Notre Dame, we got something to match there. But, obviously Van de Sype, a Hound for a long time, a Wilcox resident, and also a Bronco alum. So come out on Wednesday night. And that game on last Wednesday, between Notre Dame and Humboldt was really tight, really good. And Tristan Boileau for Humboldt was unbelievable. That was one of the better games the Hounds have played all year, and just couldn't score on Boileau was really the game story. So should be interesting on Wednesday.
Roy?
Yeah, I'm looking at the rematch between Kindersley and Nipawin, so it's a little bit ahead. It's on the weekend.
yeah.
Both games in Kindersley. Like I said, once we get some hockey under the Clippers, we'll see, if they can make that push up in towards that playoff race that Nipawin's currently in. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm looking at. And for the Hawks, we talked to Maguire, we talked to Tad. We know there's excitement about where they are right now, and these are big games against the Kindersley Clippers. We talked a lot about LaRange beating the Battleford's North Stars. The most underrated game in the weekend was the one where that highlight of the week came from, and it was a 5-4 shootout win. So it's good hockey between those two teams, and it's also a family weekend for the Broncos. Well, they'll take on Melfort on Saturday and Flin Flon on Sunday. They're doing a Grey Cup watch party afterwards as well on the big Jumbotron. If you've never been to the EPA and want to take in some SJHL hockey and the Grey Cup, where the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, of course, are going to be going for three-peat. Big win last night. Then, come down to the EPA, another guaranteed 50-50. But that's where I'll be, and that's what I'll be tuning into. But keeping an eye on this playoff race that we know is just going to keep heating up.
Yeah, I think that's when you look at the schedule. I think now every Monday when I look at the schedule, that's the thing I always look at now. Is I remember I think it was either last week or 2 weeks ago you talked about how when you look at the standings, there's kind of the two tiers, and now when you look at that bottom tier when it involves about 6 or 7 teams fighting for a couple of playoff spots. Now I look on the schedule and I look for those matchups, because those literally any point in those matchups is so crucial. Yeah. And you touched on Nipawin and Kindersley. It was a 3-point game it was a 3-point game when those two teams met again, and that's what makes the situation even trickier.
What the tiers are also depicting now is not only the race to make the playoffs, there is a big one for home ice advantage, right? Like you got Battleford separated, then you got Flin Flon, LaRange, Humboldt, Melfort, Estevan. Only 3 of those teams are getting home ice. I know it's November, but it's another thing depicted by these kind of separation and tiers that we're seeing.
Yeah, it's going to be wild the rest of the way. I also have to mention, like Mike Reagan is a great supporter of the show. Really appreciate you watching. Are you trying to kill your kids, Mike? Like, I'm just kidding, obviously. Flin Flon's got Battleford's Humboldt in 3-3.
That's a tough one.
That should be interesting this weekend. But hey, get your tickets to the Access Communication Center. There twice there in Battleford's and once at the EPA, because those are going to be 3 outstanding hockey games this weekend.
Yeah, there's a lot of good games on the schedule this week. So if you can make it out to the rink, support your local junior hockey team. If not, you can catch all the games on Hockey TV. A subscription's only $29.99 a month. But if you want to stay up to date in the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League, be sure to follow us across all of our social media platforms. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's where you can find all the features, episodes of SJHL Weekly and Insider, highlights, and much, much more. And before we go, again, we have to thank our great sponsors here at SJHL Weekly: Chevrolet, Capital Auto Mall, Great Western Cantera Seeds, RBC SaskTel, SGU, Direct West, Saskatchewan Construction Safety Association, who present each and every coach's conversation we have on this show, Tourism Saskatchewan, and Young's Equipment. Thank you so much for your support. Without your support, these shows wouldn't be possible. For Rory Mcgouran, Jamie Neugebauer, my name is Jeromy Corrigan, and this has been another great episode of SJHL Weekly.